Namaskar viewers. Hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Teena Jha. You're watching Perspective. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Japan from 29th to 30th of August to participate in the 15th India-Japan Annual Summit. Now, this will be the Prime Minister's 8th visit to Japan and the first summit with Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. As per the MEA document, the two Prime Ministers will review the special strategic and global partnership between India and Japan, including defense and security, trade and economy, technology and innovation, and people-to-people exchanges. Besides, they will also discuss issues of regional and global importance. Further, in the second leg of his visit, the Prime Minister will travel to Tianjin in China from 31st August to the 1st of September to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO summit. Coming amid major shift in geopolitical dynamics, how much significance do these engagements hold for India? What outcomes can we look forward to from this important round of diplomacy? We'll discuss this and much more in perspective today. Joining me is an illustrious panel. So let me begin by introducing our guest to you. With me in the studio is Dr. Manish Dabhade. He's Associate Professor, Center for International Politics, Organization and Disarmament, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University. Dr. Dabhade, thank you very much for your time. Welcome to the program. Joining us virtually is Dr. Lakshmikant Bajpai, Member of Parliament. He represents the BJP in the upper house. Dr. Bajpai, glad to have you with us on this telecast. Welcome to Sansad TV. And it also gives me immense pleasure to welcome Ambassador Jitendra Kumar Tripathi, former diplomat. Ambassador, thank you for your time. Welcome to the program. So since the Prime Minister is going on a two-nation tour, let's take up first his visit to Japan, which is the first leg of the Prime Minister's visit. Dr. Dabhade, to you first. So this is Prime Minister Modi's 8th visit to Japan overall, but the first summit with his Japanese counterpart, Prime Minister Ishiba. From an international relations perspective and given the shift in geopolitical dynamics, help us and our viewers understand how significant is it in context of the timing of the visit, the timing of the visit of the Prime Minister to Japan?
No, absolutely. I think it's a very crucial moment and it is really a moment of immense geopolitical flux, geo-economic flux caused primarily by the Trump administration and its economic nationalism, if one can call it, using tariffs. Right. So I think there is a lot of rethinking about, especially amongst allies, and Japan is a very important ally of alliance partner of the United States. Also, we need to keep in mind that though we're talking about Trump administration, it is really, I mean, about China. So China during the pandemic and what sort of China's policies were towards Indo-Pacific. So I think that this meeting actually really is sort of updating by the leadership of Japan and India, and to look at identifying synergies to really increase and influence and expand the role in the Indo-Pacific region.
Right. So whether there will be continuity of sorts or will we see new initiatives, let me go across to Ambassador Tripathi. Ambassador, Japan and India share a special strategic and global partnership. How do you see this upcoming visit of the Prime Minister to Japan further reaffirming the bond that we share with Japan, and particularly how that relationship has evolved under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi?
Well, Tina, first of all, with the namaskar to all my co-panelists and your viewers. It has always been a pleasure to be on Sansad TV because you have a very articulated dialogue, no nonsense.
Pleasure is all ours, Ambassador. Thank you.
That's very good. Now, as comes Modi's visit, as regards Modi's visit to Japan, you know, as the previous speaker has pointed out, it's a usual thing. It is 15th such annual summit. But as you had pointed out, the timing is very important. I mean, at the time when Donald Tariff Trump is leaving no arrows in his quiver against India, and at this time when he is up against Russia, but he is not up against China. At this time, India's Indian Prime Minister's visit to Japan takes a very high significance. However, you see, during the previous Prime Minister's time, it evolved about 14 years back. It evolved, and now it has reached at the stage where we can say it has grown up. It has become 15 years old. And a special strategic and global partnership. This type of partnership we have only with few states, with few countries. And the annual summit format, this mechanism we have only with Russia. Not with China, not with America, but with Russia we have annual bilateral summit partnership. So that is important, and it becomes important for India and Japan both, because India and Japan both are members of Quad, with other two members, Australia and USA. So now the question can be raised, what will be the future of Quad with Indo-American relations going sour or going bitter? So in this context, Modi's visit to Japan is quite important, because they will certainly discuss regional and global issues.
Absolutely.
So they will certainly discuss this. And India and Japan's relations have been growing steadily. So I don't think there will be any problem in these two, between the two. But yes, probably they jointly could find out some solution or some sort of way out of these tariff threats. Because Japan also has been imposed some tariff. So this is one. The second is, now that Trump has showed the signs of softening against China, even though China has been imported, according to Peter Navarro, China has been importing maximum oil from Russia. Right. But then China has put a restriction on export of rare earth, which is used in USA in many industries, and especially, Ford has almost stopped its production because they don't have access to rare earth to make their magnets more powerful for their vehicles.
Right.
So in this, and the second thing, bilateral trade relations, they are not very satisfactory with Japan. I mean, such a country whose GDP is almost like that of India. The bilateral trade with such a good friend has been only $22.84 billion last year.
Right. So how much potential do you see in expanding that trade cooperation? Also, how are we going to ramp up investment? It's something that I'll come to you, Ambassador. Since we're talking about the significance, particularly of the Prime Minister's visit to Japan, let me also bring in Dr. Bajpai and get in his thoughts about how he thinks this visit of the Prime Minister will add another chapter to the India-Japan relationship. Dr. Bajpai, about India-Japan relationship, it said that we do not just enjoy or share a special strategic and global partnership. It's also said that with Japan, India has a natural partnership in the 21st century. And perhaps Japan is described as the closest ally of India, at least in Asia. How do you see this visit of the Prime Minister, even though it's just continuity, it's the 15th annual dialogue, but given the timing, given the geopolitical shift, how important do you think, or what kind of new chapter do you see this visit of the Prime Minister adding to this very, very significant and important partnership that we have with Japan?
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की जापान की 8वीं यात्रा निश्चित तौर पर वर्तमान टैरिफ युद्ध के काल में उनकी वैश्विक साझेदारी भारत और जापान के बीच में जो है, अर्थव्यवस्था, सुरक्षा और व्यापार से संबंधित जो विषय हैं, उन सब पर इस यात्रा का लाभ मिलेगा। एक बात और स्पेसिफिक कहना चाहता हूं, जापान की $5 ट्रिलियन की प्रतिबद्धता थी हिंदुस्तान में इन्वेस्टमेंट करने की। संभावना है कि वो $10 ट्रिलियन वो इन्वेस्टमेंट करेगा जी। कुल मिलाकर भारत और जापान के बीच में आपसी समझ, व्यापार, सुरक्षा, सब विषयों पर स्पष्ट है आपस की समझ। इस यात्रा से वो समझ और मजबूत होने वाली है और इस टैरिफ युद्ध के कार्यकाल में भारत फिर एक बार मजबूत शक्ति के रूप में उभरेगा। मैं यहाँ एक बात कहना चाहता हूँ, पोखरण विस्फोट हुआ था, उस वक्त सारे संसार ने हम पर सेंसेस लगाए थे। तब अटल जी के नेतृत्व में सरकार थी, हमने किसी की परवाह नहीं करी थी, भारत अपने रास्ते पर आगे बढ़ा था और मजबूती से बाहर निकल कर आया था। कोरोना के काल में भी सब देशों की अर्थव्यवस्था डगमगा गई, भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था डगमगाई नहीं और धीरे धीरे वो चौथी पायदान पर पहुंचने का काम हुआ और तीसरी पायदान पर जाने की तैयारी कर रहे हैं। इसलिए जहां तक भारत का सवाल है, भारत किसी से दबकर काम करने का आज की तारीख में मन बनाए हुए नहीं है। हम पूरी तरीके से एक वैश्विक शक्ति के रूप में उभर कर और जनता और अब दोनों देशों की जनता के हित में काम करने की मानसिकता से चल रहे हैं।
Certainly, that's an important point that you've spoken about, Dr. Bajpai. Let me take that across to Dr. Dabhade about the decade-long 10 trillion yen investment that is perhaps expected by Japan for India, and it's almost double the earlier commitment by Japan. How do you see this scaling up of investment, particularly pushing India's infrastructure and manufacturing sectors, and especially in context of sectors like, say, logistics, energy, technology, in which we are trying to strengthen our partnership with Japan?
Yeah, I think it's a very important, what we're going to witness during the trip is really a ramping up of Japanese investments in India, and look at all the frontier areas of technology. So there is going to be AI cooperation agreement, there is going to be talk about increasing semiconductors manufacturing. So I think the whole idea is to really identify top areas of technology cooperation and really ensure that India and Japan individually and unitedly in alliance in terms of partnership really surge ahead in really areas of technology where I think it is important that how are you going to really challenge the technological sort of increasing dominance in the Indo-Pacific of China. And here I think the synergies which are developing between India and China, India and Japan are extremely important. We are going to see possibly Prime Minister visiting bullet train, experimental project. He's going to visit also the chip manufacturing site. So I think the message which is going out is that especially in times of these economic turbulence internally and even externally, again as I said caused by Trump's tariffs, is that can we really identify areas of cooperation, can we join hands and really move ahead, surge ahead towards building a solid economic partnership which really takes care of India's development agenda. And exactly as was pointed out by Honorable MP, that India is now moving towards being the third largest economy, and Japan is an indispensable partner for India in this exercise ahead.
In fact, I was pleasantly surprised while I was reading that the agreement was to share E5 model technology. But by the time the agreement was signed and they had already developed the E10 technology, so then they agreed to share that technology with India by 2030. In that context, I would also like to understand from you that in a world where there is growing supply chain vulnerability and there is a growing protectionism, how significant is the kind of relationship, especially in building trusted technology partnerships and with a partner like Japan?
See, in fact, that's exactly the main point, that if you look at closely observe India-Japan relations, especially in the last decade or so, one thing which really strongly emerges out is the question of strategic trust. That India and Japan are really, look at each other as strategic trust partners, and that is where there are sensitive areas, for example, in northeast of India, where India has allowed Japanese investments and has debarred investments from China for obvious security reasons. So that shows that there is a common sort of security sort of framework, a common political paradigm, especially in the Indo-Pacific, and that synergy, that sharing of convergence of views and policies between India and Japan is ensuring that this visit is really going to see moving ahead in terms of expanding their cooperation.
Ambassador, before we begin talking about the SCO, one question, since we are talking about the India-Japan partnership and the new kind of technology sharing framework that we have both entered into, semiconductors and essential minerals are central to this new framework. From a strategic point of view, or from somebody who's been a career diplomat, Do you see this move as helping India reduce its dependence on China, especially in these areas?
Well, sure, Tina, though we do not know how big Japan's, rare earth mineral deposits are, or how big is Japan's semiconductor industry. But certainly technical know-how from Japan, and also maybe Japan's investment or Japan's assistance in mining, exploiting the rare earth minerals that we have got, but we have not been able to exploit them so far. That also can come handy for India. And secondly, you see technology transfer, like this train, Shinkansen train, bullet train. So far, Japan was giving us technology for E5 series train. Now Japan is going to launch this year itself, probably this end of this month, E10 series, which is a much more advanced model, and which probably will be launched together jointly by India and Japan, because that means that Japan is going to supply us that advanced model of train. So infrastructure. The third thing is Japan is expert, pioneer country in constructing tremor resistant buildings. So earthquake resistant buildings. That maybe that technology we can ask Japan to invest in us, and that will be something very good. Coming to defense, Japan has developed a very highly sensitive and highly effective system, which is called railgun. Probably we can think of sharing this technology with Japan, sharing this technology for our defense requirements.
Right.
This is a sort of laser gun type of thing, which runs at a very fast speed and destroys the enemy targets. So these are the things which we can probably have cooperation with Japan.
Certainly, lots of potential in which our relationship with Japan can be further strengthened. Dr. Bajpai, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, सेमीकंडक्टर और क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स जैसे क्षेत्रों में जिन नए समझौतों की हम बात कर रहे हैं, जो प्रधानमंत्री के इस दौरे के दौरान अनाउंस हो सकते हैं, आपकी नज़र में वो भारत की तकनीकी आत्मनिर्भरता को किस तरह से और मजबूत और सशक्त कर सकते हैं?
निश्चित तौर पर 2047 में विकसित भारत बनाने का संकल्प लेकर प्रधानमंत्री जी काम कर रहे हैं, और उसी क्रम में जापान यात्रा में जो कुछ समझौते होंगे तकनीकी दृष्टि से भारत के लिए महत्वपूर्ण होंगे और भारत के युवा पीढ़ी के लिए बहुत उपयोगी सिद्ध होंगे।
बल्कि आपने निवेश की भी बात कही थी, जो डबल देन द प्रीवियस कमिटमेंट है जापान के द्वारा 10 ट्रिलियन येन। आपके नज़रिए से और ख़ास करके आम आदमी के नज़रिए से अगर हम देखें तो भारत के युवाओं के लिए, भारत के उद्योगों के लिए किस तरह के अवसर आपको लगता है कि इससे और खुल सकते हैं आने वाले समय में?
जस्ट डबल का कमिटमेंट की संभावना है जी, $5 ट्रिलियन से $10 ट्रिलियन की। स्वाभाविक है कि जब ये धनराशि आएगी तो धनराशि किसी न किसी तकनीकी के रूप में भी आएगी, और तकनीकी का उपयोग आज की तारीख में युवा भारत कर रहा है, यानी हिंदुस्तान का नौजवान कर रहा है। और हिंदुस्तान का नौजवान जब तकनीकी से सन्नद्ध हो जाएगा तो उसकी क्षमता पर भरोसा किया जा सकता है। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में जापान यात्रा का जो सुपरिणाम आएगा, उससे भारत के नौजवानों के लिए अवसर खुलेंगे।
Okay, moving now to the second leg of the Prime Minister's visit, which is going to be in Tianjin, China, where he will be attending the SCO summit. Dr. Dabhade, talk to us about the significance of the Prime Minister personally attending the SCO summit in China, despite the tensions we have had, the 4.5 year-long relationship at the lowest ebb with our neighboring country. But the significance of the Prime Minister now attending the summit in person, what does it say about the intent of India's engagement with adversaries despite the tensions, but in the larger interest of the country?
No, I think it's a very significant moment for India, for India's engagement, especially with China.
Yeah.
Obviously, after what happened in Galwan, there is a serious rethinking about what China is looking at, what China aims vis-a-vis India. And I think what we are witnessing is a gradual shift from a deep freeze to a conditional engagement with China. And I think this visit is also reflective of that. And we saw last week the Chinese Foreign Minister really coming to India and laying the groundwork for Prime Minister Modi's visit for attending the SCO summit. So SCO summit, I think you also need to understand there are two components of it. One is obviously the summit itself, what significance it has for India, and as I said earlier, I mean, it is also about China. At one level, many Western countries, as I was talking to you earlier, are also looking at is India making a decisive shift towards the other side, towards the non-West side, after what in fact the entire Western bloc is facing in terms of the Trump tariffs. So I think that it is going to be a sort of global signaling. Very importantly, please understand this SCO itself has two permanent members of UN Security Council. Look at the geographical expanse. So 60% of Eurasian landmass is covered under SCO. You have 10 members. 10 international organizations for observers, 2 more observers. So I think there is a very significant sort of multilateral setting which India is looking to really look, I mean, in terms of getting specific interest. So at one level, it is a reflection also of multi-alignment, which Prime Minister Modi has been talking about since 2014, and it is also a reassertion of strategic autonomy, that any relations with any party are not going to be vetoed, are not going to be dictated by any other party. I think that is the key lesson which we are going to see via the SCO summit.
On the other, we are engaging with SCO, of which China and Pakistan both are, or where Pakistan and China both are on the table. How do you see this balancing act by India? How does it serve our interest, and how does it give us a platform to assert that our foreign policy will only be guided by national interest?
Prime Minister's visit to China is also not a surprise, because it is a regular visit.
Yes.
Regular visit in the sense that SCO summits are held every year. This year, its summit is being held in Tianjin, so the Prime Minister visiting. But again, the same thing, the timing of the visit is very important. When China was on target, and still to some extent China is being targeted by US, and of course China is, we are being targeted by US. At this juncture, the visit takes place, and it is possible that at the sidelines of the summit, there will be bilateral meeting between Modi and Chinese president. That will be very important. And one thing, in the bilateral meeting or even in SCO, probably some sort of strategy would be devised or at least discussed by the member countries to counter this type of tariff threats. Secondly, you know, among the regional organizations, many regional organizations, SCO is perhaps the only organization which has a separate branch, regional anti-terrorism system, which is why it becomes very important for India, so that India can there raise its concern against terrorist activities sponsored by one of the members of SCO.
Right.
So that also makes very important, that makes it very good or an important platform for India to raise its voice and raise its concern about this.
Absolutely. So in terms of counter-terrorism cooperation, connectivity projects, perhaps that's what the SCO is meant for. We will discuss in due course, but let me get in Dr. Bajpayee's perspective also on the relevance and the significance of the Prime Minister attending the SCO summit. Dr. Bajpayee, आपको लगता है कि SCO में शामिल होकर भारत अपनी स्वतंत्र विदेश नीति का संदेश, हम हमेशा दुनिया को कहते हैं कि we will not be guided by anybody else but solely by India's interests, और हमारे जो फैसले हैं वो नई दिल्ली में तय किए जाएंगे, वॉशिंगटन और ब्रसल्स में नहीं। तो ये जो संदेश है ये हम और ज़्यादा मजबूती से दे पा रहे हैं क्योंकि अब प्रधानमंत्री SCO समिट में खुद पर्सनली जा रहे हैं, उन्होंने किसी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव को नहीं भेजा है डिस्पाइट द फैक्ट कि ये समिट चाइना में हो रहा है।
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में इससे भी बड़ा संदेश है सारे संसार को। भारत अपनी नीति और अपनी विदेश नीति के आधार पर चलेगा, किसी भी देश के किसी भी शक्ति के दबाव में झुकेगा नहीं। ये संदेश देते हुए प्रधानमंत्री जी की ये 7 साल के बाद चीन की यात्रा है शंघाई सहयोग संगठन के शिखर सम्मेलन में। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी इस अवसर का जरूर उपयोग करेंगे वहां पर जहां पर जो अन्य राष्ट्राध्यक्ष होंगे उनके साथ भी वार्ता करेंगे। लेकिन एक बात बिल्कुल स्पष्ट कर दूं कि जहां कैलाश मानसरोवर की यात्रा शुरू हुई है, जहां चीन के साथ हवाई उड़ान की भी संभावनाएं बन गई हैं, लेकिन भारत की सीमा पर जो तनाव है उस तनाव के कम करने के बारे में प्रधानमंत्री जी प्रभावी भूमिका का निर्वाह करेंगे इस शिखर सम्मेलन के अवसर पर, और निश्चित तौर पर मुझे भरोसा है कि सफल होंगे। और जापान और चीन की यात्रा से एक संदेश जाएगा सारे विश्व के उन लोगों को जो ये कल्पना करते हो या सोचते हो कि भारत दबाव में काम करेगा। भारत आज की तारीख में दबाव में काम करने वाला नहीं है, भारत माता के हितों से समझौता करने वाला नहीं है।
Dr. Dabhade, in terms of the expected outcomes, and since the ambassador spoke about what to expect, especially in terms of counter-terrorism cooperation, the diplomatic signaling we've already spoken about, in terms of also the connectivity projects, what can we expect to take back? Because I remember there was a time when India refused to agree to the document because it wasn't in line with what India wanted. And how do you expect that to change in this particular summit?
No, you rightly pointed out when there was the SCO Defence Ministers meeting, I think this was in June this year. Honorable Defence Minister refused to sign a document which exactly did not point out what happened, a tragic terrorist attack by sources from Pakistan, and that was not acknowledged, that was not mentioned in the document. Right. But militant activities, terrorism in Balochistan were mentioned. So I think that is exactly, I think, the challenge for India, that in SCO, despite all talk about RATS, which Ambassador talked about, that there is, the SCO was formed to take on 3 evils of terrorism, extremism and separatism. But are they really serious about it? What are they doing about SCO member Pakistan, which is really fomenting terrorism in India? And the Pahalgam also completely brought out that aspect of Pakistan's cross-border terrorism policy again. The point is, at some stage SCO, at some stage China has to, they have to show seriousness about terrorism, otherwise they are going to lose all credibility, and India is not going to accept that anymore, which was again proved by Rajnath Singh just refusing to sign the document. So I think the declaration, the SCO declaration, which obviously would be, which is being negotiated, would need to have would have to take a clear policy, a clear stance against terrorism emanating from Pakistan. So unless and until that happens, I don't think India would be in a position to take the SCO seriously, and I don't think the conditional engagement will move forward vis-a-vis China unless this is brought to the satisfaction of India.
China certainly wouldn't want that to happen this time, Ambassador, given that Mr. Wang Yi was in India a couple of days ago. He had engagements with our foreign minister, also with the the Prime Minister, the fact that the SCO summit is happening in China. How do you see now that there is a temporary thaw in relationship between India and China, there is conditional engagement, how do you see India's priorities or India's interests converging with the grouping, especially this time around?
Well, you know, India's priorities with China, you mean, or with SCO?
With the SCO, with the SCO.
With SCO. With SCO, one is that the SCO itself is against any type of hegemony by any superpower, and hereby meaning USA. So we will be supporting that, but at the same time we will be having a cautious approach that it doesn't play in hands of China. Secondly, you know, for us, SCO is important in sense also that the CIS countries, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, etc., these countries, they also have quite considerable amount of deposits of rare earth minerals. So that, and then so with interacting with those countries, probably we'll be able to extract some concessions on their rare earths.
Okay.
Then again, it will be a sort of initiative for increasing the trade between not only India and China or India and Russia, but India and other CIS countries which are members. Of course, Pakistan is different case, gone case. We don't expect that things will improve soon with Pakistan. But other CIS countries, the country like Iran, the other nations, they also form very important part of SCO. And our cooperation, our meeting with their leaders on sidelines of SCO will certainly bring more important fruits for India's foreign policy and trade development.
All right, so with that, we'll have to wrap up the conversation. Time allows me to take up only that much on this edition of Perspective. Thank you once again to all our guests for joining us on this edition of Perspective, sharing your thoughts, your views with us and our viewers. And to you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.